Sorry, folks, my iPhone just informed me that this insanely long chapter had used up all my memory. And so I'm just going to have to finish the last few words of the chapter and upload a I don't know, 4-minute video or whatever and call it done. This chapter is sort of interminable. There's a ton of allusions that come one after the other. A literary scholar might look them all up, but I'm not asking anybody to do that. Obviously, Dorian has thought through his ancestors in real life as well as his ancestors in literature and the effects they've had on him, and this is his conclusion and the conclusion of the chapter. There was a horrible fascination in them all. He saw them at night, and they troubled his imagination in the day. The Renaissance knew of strange manners of poisoning, poisoning by a helmet and a lighted torch, by an embroidered glove and a jeweled fan, by a gilded pomander and by an amber chain. Dorian Gray had been poisoned by a book. There were moments when he looked on evil simply as a mode through which he could realize his conception of the beautiful. And that's the end of the chapter. So it concludes that Dorian Gray was poisoned by literature. He was poisoned by a book, and that the poisoning or the influence has gotten to the point where he no longer considers evil as evil. Evil is a means to procure new sensations. Evil is a means to an end in his new religion of the new hedonism. And this is how he spends 10 years. Collecting things, gaining sensations, living double lives, being paranoid of his picture and what it might reveal. Finding excuses for his current behavior. All of that. Readings. Being heavily invested in really all forms of art. That's Dorian's life. He considers it to be a work of art. But, as a modern reader and obviously as a Victorian reader, Oscar Wilde is saying things more than just the plot. What is his conclusion about the value of art? What is his conclusion about the value of morality? Is he really in favor of Dorian Gray, or is Dorian Gray a negative character? Is he an anti-hero rather than what you might consider sort of a heroic protagonist? These are all things we want to think about and I'll consider as we continue to read the story. What does Dorian Gray represent? Is he humanity in general? Is he modern humanity, Victorian humanity? Is he Oscar Wilde? I mean, these are all things that just think about, consider. What's going on? Why was this chapter here? What was Oscar Wilde hoping to accomplish with it? It's not a great chapter. From a standpoint of plot, first time I read the book, I almost put the book down and stopped reading it. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Like, having read it now, I don't know, 14 or 15 times, taught it for years, it sticks with me. There's lots of lessons, but this chapter, it's a real detractor. Why go into such detail? What does Oscar Wilde get out of it? Hit me up with answers to those questions. Send me an email. I'd love to discuss it. All right, I'm going to call it a day. See ya.